What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scoundrels of the Forest. Thank you for coming back. We did have a week off last week, basically because I got worked to the bone in my job. I was on call, so unfortunately I had to cancel, which means we have 2 episodes of Bad Batch to catch up on. So let's just get right to it. I got a couple of scoundrels here with me. We're going to touch base on some news. It's going to be a case of quality over quantity. Not much in the news this week, but some interesting little segments we'll touch base on. And then we'll get right back into the episodes 3 and 4 of the Bad Batch. So without further ado, let's get my normal scoundrel crew up here. First off, of course, my brother from the Action Army, former Class Action cohort, that we're going to eventually finish that someday. You know, I left it on a cliffhanger, right? That's what happened. I left it on a cliffhanger. We have to finish it out with a big blockbuster movie. Richard Jarvi, how are you, my friend?
What's going on? You're calling us normal? We're not normal.
No,
we're not
true.
The normal crew. We're the bad crew. The bad scoundrels. Also, are we doing like a new thing where you come on alone and then you start bringing us in? Because this is all new to me.
Yeah, I decided to throw that in like last second. I'm like, let's just try something different. Let's see what happens. What happens?
It works.
Throw everybody out there. I'll give everybody their proper introduction. It's good to be here. I gotta say, I love your new setup, Jarvi. One thing I do want to say though, like the wall, how the wall does, it looks almost like you have a standing wall, like a little, almost like a set piece there, because then it goes behind it. Like it goes behind, like it almost looks like a set piece.
You can see welcome to my bedroom. You can see the bed back there. Yeah, it's kind of like weird. I just moved in this weekend. It kind of all happened like very fast. I found a better place than it was before. And yeah, the only thing I feel like there's like it's not an original, obviously. There's like a Picasso painting back there. I feel like I gotta replace this with the Star Wars poster or something.
At least for the time when you're on the show. I mean, you could put the Picasso up normally, take it down, put up something, Darth Maul or Baby Dave or Liam. Maybe put up Liam.
Oh, fucking Liam. Fuck off, Liam.
Speaking of Liam, let's bring on the next scoundrel here. The one and only Matty Gunner. How are you doing, my friend?
The fuck you mean, speaking of Liam? Do I look like a Liam to you? What's up, boys?
Liam did have blondish hair, like a little lighter colored hair than I did, so we'll go with that for now.
That's true.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm very good, mate. Had a bit of a rough night last night. Felt it this morning, but we're here. We're here to talk Star Wars, and we got a very, very special, important guest.
We do. We do. Another member of the Action Army. That's all that comes on my show, because I don't allow anybody else. Well, it's not sure. I probably don't ask anybody else yet, but otherwise, this guy has been a long-term Star Wars fan. He's very opinionated on Star Wars, but he's also very intelligent on Star Wars. So I always like discussing it with him. He kind of got miffed that we didn't ask him on before he asked on John Getz. He let me know about it. So I would say this is not a pity one. This is one I was going to get him on anyway, but then he kind of forced my hand and called me out on it, so I had to make do. Here he is. Zack McDonnell, how are you, my friend?
Yo, how's it going, man?
Going good. I want to touch base with you since you haven't been on the show before, since you haven't haven't seen talk to us about your Star Wars love, how you got to love Star Wars, what your thoughts were going into the animated universe and Bad Batch. Lay it out for us.
I mean, I'm kind of hit or miss on the animated stuff in general. Mm-hmm. So Clone Wars, I think there's a lot of good arcs in there, but there's also a lot of just filler stuff that I could do without. It doesn't do a whole lot for me. Rebels feels a bit more complete to me. It starts a little bit slower, but then once you get into it, it's pretty solid all the way through. Resistance was it was whatever. Resistance was resistance. So
It was a thing.
I didn't care. I didn't care for the Bad Batch arc in Clone Wars, so I was a little nervous about this show. But I mean, I'm enjoying it more or less so far.
All right, we'll break that down as we get further into it. It's actually nice to say, because Richard Jarvi actually never watched the Clone Wars. I had to push him to watch some Clone Wars, and I'm still going to get him to push through, because again, for the good moments, and because I think you need to see some of it, at least to really appreciate some of the stuff later on.
I can see the wheels in Jarvi's head turning, saying, "No, the fuck you ain't."
me and Zach, we talked about the animated stuff a little bit, and it feels like I'm not going to spoil it, but we might be on the same page more than you think.
That's good. Well, that's good to hear. Actually, yeah, a little 2-on-2 maybe. Although I will admit, I do understand both sides of the coin, so to speak. And an interesting, I don't know if this matters to anybody else, but my wife finally started watching some of the Star Wars animation stuff. I introduced her to Star Wars in general. I brought her on to watch the Mandalorian with me. She was all excited about the Mandalorian. She got all into it. But since she was getting into the Mandalorian with the upcoming Ahsoka series and everything else, I thought you really should catch up on some of the stuff so you know what you're getting into. At least you have some idea about it. So she watched the Clone Wars with me. She watched the best of the Clone Wars. She kind of seemed daunted by 7 seasons. So I kind of I didn't make her watch the Droids arc. I didn't make her watch the marks. I definitely skipped. I wanted to get her the best of the Ahsoka's part and get the best of the Mandalorian stuff so that she'd have that basis. Then she watched Rebels. Actually, we're still watching Rebels. We have 2 episodes left in Rebels before we complete the entire run, and she liked Rebels quite a bit, so that's an interesting take. And so far, she actually likes the Bad Batch best so far in the couple episodes we watched. So there. That's
how many? She's seen 2 episodes of the Bad Batch.
She watched all 4.
Oh, okay. All
She's actually watches it with me weekly. I tend to watch it myself at work when it drops at 3 a.m. Eastern. Since I work overnight, I go boom. I'll just watch it, and then I watch it again with her during the weekend. So because I get a chance to watch it again, I get another excuse to watch it again. I figure what the hell, so it's good.
Did you? I noticed that when you said I usually watch it at work alone, and you did it. You glanced if she heard you. Were you supposed to watch it with her the first time?
All right, let's be honest.
I noticed the glance.
I'll be honest with you. This kind of started with the MCU stuff. When we did the reviews. I did the reviews of the Action Industries on Falcon Winter Soldier and WandaVision. I told her point blank that I had to watch it without her because I had to watch it at work because we did the review.
It's work.
At Friday. The next day by 5 o'clock, there was no way that Kim would be able to get home in time to watch it with me. So she was a little annoyed at that. She wasn't very happy with that, but she kind of understood. I said it's work, man. I get paid for it. I got to do it, and so I had that to lean on. But when the Star Wars came along, I just haven't told her otherwise. So I just let the thing go, and we just don't ask, don't tell about it.
It's a gray area.
It's a gray area, much like the Bad Batch themselves. So maybe she's kind of accepted. I warmed her into it. So. I'm not gonna tip over. I'm not gonna break something that's not. I don't want to worry about it. So hopefully, yeah.
Real quick before we jump into the news, I want to publicly give Zach his flowers because it takes a lot to beat me in Star Wars trivia. I'm pretty damn good at it, but Zach is just a whole different level. When we ever do our watch-alongs for the Schmodown, some of the stuff that Zach comes out with is just how the fuck I didn't know that, so I had to have him on.
I appreciate that, Matty. But I think, the times I've been there with you, the times I've been there with PLD, I think we're all on pretty even footing. So I appreciate it, though.
Yeah, you guys are. Yeah, Richard, you're definitely not in the Star Wars Trivia League, though.
I haven't ever done any Star Wars trivia with him, so I can't comment on that. But.
You don't want to either.
Okay.
No, you do, because you beat him, probably.
True.
But that's actually why I like having Jarvi on here. In a way, it's great to have the different levels of knowledge of lore, and gives them definitely a different perspective than some of us.
What do we call him? The PLD? The
PLD-01. PLD-01. That's what he called himself. That's right. He put it up one day. It's stuck. But real quick before we stop the news, want to say hey to everybody in the chat there. Brandon Buckingham, of course, always good to see you. Wingblade, yes. Bantam milk was in my coffee. That's exactly what happened. Mike, good to have you, of course. Alan, the director, always good to see you, my friend. And, of course, Monty being a little aggressive towards somebody else besides me, which is, it's interesting. It's an interesting tactic. I did go to a meeting between going for Zach and said, I'm going to have Zach on the show more often for that. A little deflection. I'm sure he's got enough ammunition left from you somewhere, though. But either way, if you guys have any questions, don't throw them in the chat. You go to streamlabs.com/PLD projects. And, of course, you feel ever so inclined, you really like the show, go to tpublic.com/PLD projects to get the Scoundrels of the Force t-shirts that I actually almost wore today, but I realized I had to stay on it from last night, so I had to change quickly to the Smashathon. #SmashCancer. Solo. There you go.
Great movie.
It's a great movie. #make Solo 2 happen. That's what's in the
Yankees.
Hell yeah.
No, see, Jarvi, you show me that, I kick you off the screen. You know better than that. But all right, let's get into the news from the last couple of weeks. Obviously, we usually do a weekly show, but we did have a week off. There was not a whole lot to discuss, and we could break down into the big bits of canon in the comics and the books and stuff like that. But since we have 2 episodes of Bad Batch to discuss, we're going to kind of truncate it to just the main topics of discussion. The first one I'm going to touch base on is that in an article, it was stated that the Rangers of the New Republic series, one of the ones that was announced at the Disney batch last year, it said it's not an active development. Now, that's really all they said about it. Now, that could mean a couple different things. That could mean that the show is canceled. That could be that the show is just, like it says, not really actively being developed, as in maybe it's just later on down the line, because they're starting to film Andor, they're starting to film Obi-Wan now. Maybe they're going on different, maybe they're developing Lando first, or Acolyte, or they want to do Ahsoka first. Maybe it's all something like that. So really, it's one of those things that this could be absolutely nothing, or it could be important. The reason why I think it's more looked at as potential news is, of course, the Cara Dune situation. Obviously, with Gina Carano not coming back to Mandalorian, as if that's all reports are true, Lucasfilm, when they initially gave her the boot, so to speak, it was kind of a vaguely worded press release. It was kind of more of like, well, we don't have plans for her in the future. Like, basically, it was like, she's not working for us now. Kind of press release.
She's not actively under contract, and we haven't established a new contract with her. Yeah.
So it could be said that it was very vague in that fashion. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't know. But if that's the case, that she is not coming back, a lot of people tied rumors to her getting her own spinoff from Mandalorian, as that was the spinoff case. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Do you think this is the case where it's going to be totally done? Or
well, I'm curious. What was the context that the statement was given? Did somebody ask a question about it, or was it part of a press release? Or?
It was part of comments about Obi-Wan being filmed. I gotta find. I don't remember the exact article I found, and I glimpsed. It was just talking about general the upcoming slate, and someone mentioned it specifically and just said that it was not an active development. It wasn't necessarily about that show. It was almost a throwaway comment. So that to me made me think it's one of the things. Is it being pushed under the rug, or is it? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I got to be honest. With a number of shows that they're talking about making, it seems very nebulous as far as what it means, right? It could mean, like you mentioned, it could just mean, no, this one's far down the line, so we just literally haven't started working on it yet. Sure. Or they could just be saying, we may never work on it, just because the potential plans, we would have to rethink about the way that it's going to work now, and it's just, if you're going to go through all that, you might as well just make a new show or something. Yeah. So
that's the only thing that's kind of a kick to it that makes it a little more different than just your average show, is that they did also mention at one point when it was announced that it was going to tie in eventually. So the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and Rangers of the New Republic were all going to be the same timeline. They were all going to culminate in some kind of crossover type of event, like the old CW thing, superhero shows they did. So if that's the case, we don't know how far along that project was in development, because that seems to me would take more development than just your average show, because you got to tie it in when it's going to take place, where it's going to take place. So, like you said, Zach, it could be that they want to just take a step back and say, okay, well, we got to retool this part of it, or do we even need this part of it at this point? It might be easier just to go, you know what? We got Ahsoka, we got Mandalorian, we got Boba Fett. Maybe we can spin something on Boba Fett, and maybe that be in the next part if we need a third show. Matty, what about you? What do you think about that?
It was the one out of all of the ones that was announced that is going to lead up to this big event that I was kind of like, don't really care for, like, could do without. And I can't remember what show I was on. I think it was the Holocron, where I said that there's potential that they could replace Cara Dune with another character like Hera. So you've got a litany of people to choose from if they do choose to bring it back. Yeah. But at the minute, I'm just kind of like,
They could even bring in somebody like a Fennec Shand. Could be.
Yeah, Ming-Na Wen is, she's definitely getting a lot of spotlight at the minute.
Right, so. And of course it would take a little bit of a shifting of her alignment, so to speak, if that's the case, if it's the New Republic and she's going to host that. But stranger things have happened. Obviously, good and bad is very fluid in Star Wars at times. So I wouldn't be surprised maybe if that, because she's a popular character, might be the way to go. Richard, any thoughts on this at all?
I like what Alan Smithy said, that bring in Cara Gugino, also kind of a funny, similar name to Gina Carano. But I think this is why they said not in active development and not canceled is they're probably just looking to either recast or find another character to fill that spot. Because she's like, the fans really loved her to the point where she got booted off the show. But I feel like I think they should try and recast the role. I feel like bringing in, I'm not as afraid of recasting as a lot of people are. And I told to Zach as well that I've been listening to a lot of John Campea lately, and I feel like some of his opinions have kind of rubbed off on me as well. Is that don't be afraid of the recasts, and I wouldn't mind if they tried to recast Cara Dune.
Honestly, I wouldn't either. Cara Dune's not a character that I care a whole lot about. Like, she's just, I mean, she's not a bad character. It's kind of a cool character, but I'm not like beholden to her that I needed to be Gina Carano.
Yeah, she's not like an iconic character or anything. They're like, Gina Carano is the actress that plays her, but they are not sort of like intrinsically linked in the same way that maybe Harrison Ford and Han Solo are. So if you can recast him, like, surely you can recast Cara Dune, right?
And in a way, with the reason why, it's because of the scandal or whatever. I think a lot of people actually probably welcome it, to be honest. There's a lot of people who be like, fine, that's fine. I don't think it's better that way. But we'll have to find out what they can do. I do think at the most, my best guess right now is that they don't know necessarily what they're doing yet. So they're just going to say, we'll see what happens, and let's see what
there's
goes down.
So many shows as well. Like, there's so much Star Wars series coming up that this news doesn't even put a dent in. Like, it's like they canceled one of them. Like, we're getting so much awesomeness coming our way, so I'm not really worried.
Yeah, the only reason I even like, if it wasn't tied into what was going on, if they didn't have that plan to tie the 3 shows in, I would be like, yeah, it's probably done. We're not even going to worry about it. The only reason I even think twice about it is that, well, then I have to definitely readjust, and maybe that's why it's taking a little longer to decide. But all right, well, that was it's kind of a non-story, but I'm going to go bring one from one almost non-story to another. What ended up being a non-story, the fact is that recently Lucasfilm updated its website. I guess it doesn't update it very often, I guess, is what we found out. And put on there was that Dave Filoni has been given the title of Executive Creative Director at Lucasfilm. And please know that also he's not the only one that has that title. There's also John Knoll and Doug Chiang, I believe, also a longtime Star Wars art person, as well as but as Star Wars social media sometimes always does, they flip their shit, and all of a sudden it was everywhere. Oh my God, Dave Filoni's taking over. Oh my God, Dave Filoni's our god. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then
an update on a website caused this. Like, this is how crazy Star Wars fans are.
Hey man, I'm guilty of it. As soon as I saw it, I put out a quote tweet. I was like, "In Filoni, I trust." Hell, fuck yeah.
Well, and it's funny because Matty and I are definitely higher up on the animated series than you guys are, which is definitely Filoni's world. I've always thought that Filoni is probably the best person that we can think of right now. We can see, at least over Lucasfilm, that at least, if you like some of the stories and don't like some of the stories, he has a good knowledge of Star Wars. As working with George Lucas, he's the only one to really work with George Lucas so hand in hand for the last 10 years or whatever. So it definitely
he
makes
is the heir apparent. Let's face it, he is George's heir apparent.
So I mean, when I read it, I was kind of like, oh, that's cool, because anytime he gets more power or gets more say in things, then it's a good thing. I think it definitely can't hurt. But as we found out, it's been that way for a year already. So I don't think we're going to see any sudden shifts or anything. It's already started a long time ago. Maybe we've seen it. I don't know whether it's good or bad at this point, but it does make me laugh that it was such a shit. I don't want to say shitstorm because it was a positive shitstorm in a way, but it was an amazing outpouring. Oh my God! And here we go. So Zach, did you have any reaction to that at all?
Pretty minimal. I mean, I think. Again, I don't mean to be a downer on this show the whole time, but I'm probably not as high on Dave Filoni as most people. I love his enthusiasm. I love his, his knowledge about Star Wars and sort of the connection to George Lucas and what he built. I think his creative decision making has been a little weird sometimes. Just some of the arcs in the shows that he's responsible for. He likes to take things in weird directions, which I'm okay with in general, but I don't know. And unfortunately, I can't pull any specific examples off the top of my head right now, but there's just throughout some of the arcs in Rebels and Clone Wars where I'm like, I don't know about these things.
The droid arc.
And, yeah, sure. And I mean, again, going back to like Mandalorian, I know he didn't, he's not responsible for all of the storylines in there, but just the sort of the format and sort of, I feel like there's a bit of a crutch of using Star Wars iconography that I don't love, just like constantly throwing references. It's just overly referential. And I worry that his historic connection to the franchise may be part of that. But I don't think the franchise is in bad hands with him as one of the executive creative directors. I think it's good to have people in that position regardless, because just content across the board needs to make sense. It needs to all work together. So,
and that is one of the, again, we are mostly a positive on the show anyway, but the sequel trilogy, if it did have any, if it's the biggest fault for the sequel trilogy was the fact that it didn't seem to be planned or cohesive as that. It seems like there's a lot of reactive to.
Which is strange because the story group was in place for all of that, and it seems like they should have leaned on them a little bit more to maintain continuity. And
I wonder about that. What the thing is, like the story group in place is that the story group might not have a lot of power. They were kind of just there. But if you put somebody like Dave Filoni and give them a title and give them like a higher up position, maybe they will lean on the story group more. Maybe Dave Filoni is the kind of guy I feel like would talk to the story group more potentially than someone like a J.J. Abrams, for example.
Well, yeah, and I think J.J. Abrams is probably the one who least utilized the story group, because we know Rian Johnson leaned on the story group a lot, and we also know that Dave Filoni was very involved, with that process, and Rian Johnson leaned on Filoni a lot. So hopefully there is a sort of hierarchical relationship there now, where the story group will lean on Filoni, and because of people's trust in Filoni, they will then lean on the story group.
Good point. And I will say,
I have a question about the hierarchy, because I want to chime in a little bit. What is the difference between where does Jon Favreau and Filoni, what are their like hierarchical
Favreau
scales, or
right now only works on Mandalorian. He is like I don't know what his actual title is, but he is in charge of, he's like the executive producer of The Mandalorian. He's the overseer of just The Mandalorian. This appointment for Filoni is a Lucasfilm. So it's like more of the whole thing. So technically speaking, Filoni probably has more power in terms of Lucasfilm, but Favreau is probably more in charge of The Mandalorian, so to speak. I mean, it's probably more 50-50. I know Favreau leans on Filoni a lot for Mandalorian anyway.
Exactly, because he directed, I think, the most episodes by, I think he did like 2 or 3 at least in one season.
Filoni or Favreau?
Filoni.
So I don't know if Filoni only did 1 or 2, I think, because he's never done
he directed
live action.
1 in one season, season 1, and I don't remember about season 2.
I don't remember either, because he didn't actually direct. He was just
did
on
the Ahsoka episode, didn't he?
Yes, I believe he did. Let's find that out.
Oh, you're right, he did. Yeah.
He's directed.
But I think that him and Favreau have such a good relationship creatively. They kind of keep each other in check.
Right.
Like we see, I don't know if like any of you guys have watched the behind the scenes of making season 2 of The Mandalorian. There was the whole thing. Favreau wanted to put McClunky in just to mess with the fans, and Filoni was like, "Don't you dare."
That's true. Filoni has directed 3 episodes over the 2 seasons. He directed
did I just out trivia you on this?
He directed The Gunslingers. He directed, the Ahsoka episode. He actually directed the first episode of the series, The Mandalorian, supposedly. That's what it says, at least. I thought that was Jon Favreau myself, but that's what Wikipedia says.
I don't recall that. But
that's what Wikipedia says. I don't know how Wikipedia, I mean, you can't trust Wikipedia, but it's been up there for a while. It's like it says directed by Filoni, written and produced by Favreau.
We'll change that.
I don't know. Either way, I do think that like the hierarchy doesn't matter as much on that show, because I think Filoni could probably pull some rank in terms of the overall story if he wanted to. But he's such an affable guy and such a guy who loves working with Favreau. Anyway, Favreau worked in the Clone Wars with him, so I mean, it's not like this is a long-term relationship.
He was like 3 different characters in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, mostly, of course.
What Matty said is is exactly why I asked this question. Is because I feel like Favreau and Filoni should work together, and they feel like they could be the Benioff and Weiss of Star Wars.
Hopefully, it's better ending.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. True. Well.
That's a totally different PLD project, and we'll go into Game of Thrones at some point. But I think that at the end of the day, Filoni being more power is good. I don't think Favreau wants more power in terms of being within Lucasfilm. I think Favreau's just happy being
unlimited power.
Yeah, I think he just wants to tell that Mandalorian story. He likes the Mandalorians and he enjoys it.
Yeah, and I think that he might. There might be a chance. I'm not saying he'll never work again after Mandalorian. I think he could do another series. He could do a movie at some point. I wouldn't be surprised. He does love Star Wars. I just think he doesn't want to do Lucasfilm necessarily itself. Filoni is a Lucasfilm guy, but it also should put to bed any rumors. This is also kind of mentioned a story we can just touch on that real briefly. Is that Kevin Feige was confirmed again not to be interested in running Lucasfilm, not to be interested in running the creative directive side of Star Wars. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He loves Star Wars. He's going to be producing the one movie at this point. Again, will it lead to another movie? I would, if it's a happy, good experience. I don't see why not. But you're not going to see Feige in charge of Star Wars like he's in charge of the MCU. So get that out of your mind, people.
And to the best of my knowledge, nobody has asked Feige to be in charge of Lucas.
No, not at all.
Is the movie still happening, though?
Yes, he has said that he is producing a movie. He's producing a Star Wars movie. We haven't heard much about it. There was rumors at one point that an MCU actor was going to be, or an MCU... Somebody from the MCU was also involved with it. They didn't I don't know if that meant... Because theoretically, Taika Waititi is also directing a Star Wars movie. And that's definitely happening. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same movie.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because they've worked together before. It would make perfect sense to me. But again, none of that is confirmed. He's been very, very quiet about what's going to go on. He just basically confirmed he's doing a Star Wars story. That's basically it. So, but it definitely is still... It was more than once. It said it was kind of recently. He reconfirmed again. He said because people asked him about being in control of Lucasfilm. He said, "No, I'm doing a Star Wars movie, and that's the extent of my involvement at this time." So,
and a little more knowledge would light our way.
Yes, exactly. All right, finally, last bit of news. We'll move on, and then we'll start talking about this week's episode. And last week's episode, Ewan McGregor was on Jimmy Kimmel's show about a week ago or so, and he had some perhaps interesting comments that he made. Some more interesting than others, but two specifically that kind of stood out. He mentioned something about his wardrobe being different than we expect. Now, one thing I have to say about this right from the get-go is that a lot of times actors will say this stuff, and the fans will jump all over it and look into every little detail. Like, oh my god, what does this mean? Oh my god, when it really doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, Ewan is definitely more into Star Wars than I would say than a lot of normal actors are into their MCU projects or Star Wars product. He's a Star Wars fan, so he knows what he's talking about. My initial thought was, well, okay, we had the way Ewan McGregor dressed in Revenge of the Sith. The way Alec Guinness dressed in A New Hope. I'm betting that's just going to be closer to Alec Guinness. That's my thought on it. You're going to see Ewan McGregor looking more like Alec Guinness as far as wardrobe goes. I don't think you can see anything radical different. It'd be weird to have a Jedi robe in Revenge of the Sith, a sort of Jedi robe in New Hope, and all of a sudden he dresses like a stormtrooper or something in the middle of the Obi-Wan series. I mean, any thoughts on that and what could be anything different? Am I off base on that?
There's actually a hot toy of Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan when he was a little bit younger. I'm going to share the link to you, PLD. Maybe you can share it on here, because I think that is a very cool look that we haven't seen before. Wow, that's a long link. Hopefully you can get that one. That was,
shout out to Pardis in the chat. Pardis has also been on the Jimmy Kimmel show.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe he has some insight.
Pardis, please explain that.
Yeah, please explain that. Let me see if I can get this.
But yes, PLD, my expectation is that it will be some type of tan-ish robes that he will be wearing in some variety or another. And so if it's not that, then he will be correct. It will be an unexpected costume.
Let me see if this makes sense.
He's in the desert, so I wouldn't rule out Hawaiian shirt and jean shorts.
Oh, yeah.
If I can get this.
Sure. Tommy Bahamas. No, that's the wrong one. That's
the wrong one?
Yeah, that's okay. Fine, though. I think that was
or it could
kind of a weird link.
Maybe his Clone Wars armor. Maybe he just has his armor with him.
Mm-hmm.
So he just puts his armor on.
Well, that'd be odd also, right?
Yeah, have his armor on.
But also, I mean, we see Obi-Wan in Rebels, I don't know, however many years before A New Hope also, and he looks basically just like the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan.
Right. True. I mean, that's a little closer. It's a little closer to the
But
time frame.
it's still at least a few years out. I mean, there's not a whole lot of time between the end of Revenge of the Sith and the beginning of A New Hope. It's what, 17 years, 18 years?
19. I believe it's 19 years.
19
Because Luke is 19 at the beginning of A New Hope. I believe that's what it is. And then it's supposed to take place right in the middle, whereas Rebels takes place like a year. Well, actually, right before. By the time Obi-Wan sees it.
Well, in the Obi-Wan season, Luke is like a kid. When you see him like running off in the distance, he's like a child.
I know, which doesn't make which
the
kind of threw me off a little bit.
It's all weird in this show.
I guess it was so weird because like he was a child, but I think maybe the distance could be he could have been a little. I mean, 'cause it seems like
maybe he's a late bloomer.
Maybe he is a late bloomer. He was 18 or 17. I don't know. I'll have to find out. But that's the old hot toy I'm being told. Is there another hot toy? Yeah, I can find the hot toy real quick. There's another one.
No, that's It's now that I look at it, it's more. It looks more like he's got like a backpack and goggles, and he's got this sort of like the Batman vibe that had the flashback.
Oh,
scene
wait. I think I found it.
The apocalyptic Batman?
Yeah, the same color rose, but like backpack and goggles and stuff like that.
I found it.
If he's wearing goggles, then he's right. That will be unexpected.
I think it's this one. I hope it's the right
Star
one.
Wars meets Mad Max.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's the backpack there, the goggles.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the hot toy that I meant.
Okay.
I mean, that's not very unexpected, though. As I said, tan robes.
Using a rifle, though, which is kind of cool.
I guess having some different equipment and stuff, it's a little more loaded down than what he usually wears. So, I mean, that would be a little bit unexpected. But all right. Thank you, Pat, for telling me that's the old hot toy. I appreciate that. All right. Well, maybe
he even maybe Obi-Wan goes topless, shirtless Obi-Wan, like showing like he's gonna work out. I'm pretty sure.
Ewan's pretty jacked.
Yeah.
Get in shape. He's always in shape, dude.
I don't think I've ever seen him
Bro,
shirtless.
watch his motorbike show. Like he's always yoked.
Really?
I'm googling Ewan McGregor shirtless now.
Wow, that's what you want on your computer history right there. Okay, good to know.
Oh, it's my work computer as well, so. Whoa, he's in decent shape.
All right. Well, I'm not going to share that screen. I don't want to look at that. It's okay. My own personal, that's fine. You guys can all Google that if you'd like yourself. But okay, so that it makes it doesn't look like that, and that's what I mean. Basically, Zack done away. That's what I kind of meant by the actors tend to pump things up and say, oh, they make a big thing. Oh, it's so different, when really it's not that different. So I always preach that we should take things one step at a time, take things what they say with a grain of salt, and that's actually important to think of. And we talk about the other comment he made on Jimmy Kimmel, which was that when Jimmy Kimmel asked him whether they had done anything special for May the 4th be with you, they actually stated that he filmed a special scene with someone very special in his life. He said that he hadn't acted with them before and isn't related to them necessarily. Now, after the Paul Bettany WandaVision fiasco, there was always the idea, is it going to be a flashback? Is he doing a Force Ghost talk with himself? Is it just him with himself? I don't think that's the case this time, but I never rule it out anymore. I had two thoughts that came to mind, and maybe you guys can either react to them or what. And real quick, yes, it's kind of one before Battle of Yavin. I think it is supposed to be 1 year before, because I mean, the end up season 4 of Rebels goes right into Rogue One, pretty much is what I've gathered at the end of Rogue One. The end of Rebels season 4 goes pretty much into Rogue One, less than a year, I think. So it is weird. The whole Luke running is a little weird. I think
I've always felt like it was at least a few years. I'm not sure I've ever looked at anything that would give a specific timeline. But.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see if maybe Wikipedia will say something. Real quick, I'll check and see what that says. Real quick, it says...
This is great television.
It is great television.
But,
I want to make sure.
In regards to his second comment, I smell a womp rat. I'm not falling for this shit again. Like, Paul Bettany already had me going round in circles. Like, oh my god, who is it? Is it Sir Patrick Stewart? Is it Ian McKellen? Who hell could it be? Listen, it's Lucasfilm, it's Disney. They're going to be on a production schedule. They're not going to be doing anything special for May the 4th. It's going to be like, all right, it's the 4th of May. What scene do we have to shoot today? All right, cool. If it was someone special, cool. It's probably, I'm going to say, maybe one of his kids. If Ewan McGregor has kids, maybe one of his kids is in it. as an extra or something.
Yeah.
He did say
Liam?
that he wasn't related to them necessarily. I don't know what the necessarily throw it in there is.
That makes me think he is just doing the exact same Paul Bettany bit, because it's like, are you related to yourself? Like, well, like you're yourself, so it's like you're sort of like you're most related to yourself, but that's not the way we think about relations.
Right.
So, I actually have my fingers crossed. He is doing the Paul Bettany bit, because
You do. You want
funny.
it to be.
That's funny, and I would like for that to happen again.
You like to shoot down rabid fans' dreams. I get that.
Yes.
Real quick, I'll touch base. Wikipedia does say between battle before Yavin and 0. It's between 1 and 0, supposedly.
Okay.
So.
And yes, Pat, I know that it starts 5 years ahead, and there's a time jump. I just never thought the time jump was like
That long.
4 years. So I thought it was a year to 2 years or something.
I kind of feel like it was almost like I always took it as like a year. Each season was like a year to a degree.
Yeah.
I do the same.
But either way. All right, getting back to the other part there, I would say that my thought process, I'd look at necessarily related, does throw me off and make me think it might be. The two things I thought of were A, is it Mary Elizabeth Winstead, his girlfriend, and perhaps there's a secret proposal involved that we don't know about yet or something. So I don't know if you're related to your wife through it. I mean, your wife is family, if that happens. That could
Definitely
be
having relations, I can tell you
they're
that.
having relations, that's for sure. That's what got him in trouble and why he ended up getting divorced from his last marriage. So that could be part of it. That would make sense, although she's not announced to be part of the cast. But if she wasn't working at the time, she probably visited Obi-Wan's scene, and maybe she was thrown around in the background there for a little bit, so it was a kind of a cool thing for him to do, potentially. The other interesting fanboy theory of mine, which I go on fanboy theory sometimes, I don't ever say they're going to be true, and I never get mad when they're not true, because I think that's ridiculous. I think that's the worst part of fandom, is you make this theory, and then like it doesn't happen, you're like, fuck this show, holy shit. People do that all the time, I'm like, what? The other thought I had, it was obviously we know that Hayden Christensen is coming back. As for this show, it's been announced. Now we know Ewan has definitely worked with Hayden Christensen before, opposite episode 3, but he never worked with Darth Vader in terms of the man of the costume. He never got to work with actually Darth Vader, like in the costume.
Well, he was Darth Vader.
He was Darth Vader, but what I mean by that, it's not the Darth Vader that we all know and love, as far as like the black mask, the cape, the asthmatic difficulties, everything like that. You didn't get to work with that Darth Vader per se. So maybe that's why they're necessarily related to, is someone he grew up loving as part of his family in a way, so to speak. Possibly somebody to that effect. So that might be a very special scene to him, that he got to actually act across from Darth Vader in costume. That could be something that's thrown up there. Again, that's a theory I'm throwing out there. It does kind of like toy with it. Is kind of almost a Paul Bettany kind of toying with it, because he's worked with them before, but he gets the specialized comment, things like that. That's in one potential. The other one I just thought of real quick, and I don't know why it would happen. I don't know what would make a big deal of it, but he is related to the guy who plays Wedge Antilles.
That's true.
So that somehow he is. Wedge is his uncle.
Yep.
Dennis Lawson is Ewan McGregor's uncle.
Whoa.
Man, I didn't know that.
Me neither.
So I don't know if that could be thrown in there somewhere. That's my least likely scenario, because it isn't. But it did make me go, maybe. So, what do you think, Richard? You haven't said much about it.
No, shirtless, Ewan.
Oh, Richard is doing good.
I'm sticking with that one. I want to see shirtless Obi-Wan.
Shirtless Obi-Wan. All right. Well, then let's take that, and we'll move on to the bulk of the show. Now we're about 40 minutes, and we haven't even started talking about the Bad Batch. So let us move on to the episodes we are here to discuss. Of course, we usually do one episode a week, but obviously with last week's being a non-show, we're going to go back to episode 3, The Replacements. Actually, no, sorry, just Replacements, not the. I'll get that wrong on the show now. Maybe. Benefit of the doubt rule, maybe I would get it right. But
God, what a disaster. Don't get me started.
Throw that rule the fuck out.
It's the worst thing to ever happen to the Schmodown.
Oh my god. You embarrass yourself.
no comment.
You embarrass me. Sorry, Zach.
All right, so we start off with episode 3, Replacements. They're obviously on their ship, and get the good touchy-feely scene with Omega and the Gonk droid. which I'm excited about. That's the referential thing Zach talks about anyway, but I think sometimes it's a good referential thing, and that was a good referential thing. It's good that they're adding him to the crew, kind of, because he was in both episodes. He's obviously on the ship more. It's a fan favorite for a long time. And it's one of those things that doesn't matter, it doesn't mean anything to the show per se, but it's one of those kind of like, you like seeing it. Right? Was everybody else happy to see that? Happy to see him back on board?
I love gonk droids. In fact, we mentioned Solo earlier. The droid rebellion scene, especially with like the mini gonk droid is stomping on the control panel, is like one of my favorite things in all of Star Wars. So, yeah, I love gonk droids.
So like it's a little pet droid, I like the gonk droid. Even when he falls down when they start crashing, like, oh, gonk! Always seems to be getting his ass kicked, though. Doesn't he always seem to have some issue with it? Like, I don't know, but either way. Matt, did you like that part?
Yeah, I mean, like Zach, I love gonk droids. There's certain droids where I'm just like, they show up and I'm just like, oh, that guy. Like, anytime I see a mouse droid, I'm like, hey! Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Cool.
Like you said, one of those referential things. I was just like, a little bit warm into my heart.
Jarvi, are you with us now, or are you still with Shirtless Human?
Google shirtless gonk droid.
I'm still looking at you.
Dude, I bet you a gonk droid is fucking
Note.
I mean, they are walking power supplies. Okay?
That's true. That is very true. That's what they are.
I would have liked it more if the gonk droid was shirtless. But, you know, just gonna accept how he is. I just realized that I haven't been on a show where we discussed the Bad Batch at all, because the last show you did episode 1 and 2.
That's
so this
right.
is my first time where I'm even giving any thoughts about the Bad Batch altogether.
Yeah, well, go ahead. Go ahead with your first overall thoughts of the first 2 episodes without getting into details. Just your first overall.
Me and were talking a little before the show, and I love the first episode. The second one I was kind of cooler on, and as it goes on, I don't want to be kind of a negative Nelly on here, but I feel like it's cooling down the further we go. And I'm hoping I feel like this is starting to fall into this sort of formulaic episode of the week thing. There's another planet to crash on. There's another problem to fix. The ship is broken, something. And throughout the episodes of 2 and 4, I haven't really seen any like story development. They're just sort of Omega is kind of getting better as she goes, but other than that, it feels like there's no movement on the story, and this is kind of frustrating to me. Kind of frustrating at times. Now that being said, I did like the 4th episode probably the best because there were the new planet, stuff like that, Fennec coming back. But other than that, I feel like this is slowly getting right into this is the reason why I couldn't keep up with the Clone Wars, because it's just another episode of the week. I want more story development. The first episode was like bonkers great. I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want. And I want these darker moments as we go along. And this, I'm going to say it for now. In episode 3, there's a very dark moment with Crosshair. But this is like my overall feelings on the show.
That's fair. It's absolutely fair. And real quick, see now Pat's trying the Zack tactic. Trying to bully his way back, bully his way out of the show, joking aside. Actually, I was going to have Monty on at some point.
Montyverse? Never heard of it.
What the fuck is a Montyverse? No, you know what, Jarvi? That's actually absolutely understandable criticism. I know that it's been a hallmark of the animated shows is that it definitely tends to be more big show, slower, big show. It kind of goes in hills and valleys, so to speak. I think the show's always going to have that issue in terms of that for you guys, for someone who doesn't like it. I'm okay with it. I tend to enjoy the exploring of the world, the universe, but this specific series, to me, is more about what's going on around the Bad Batch rather than the Bad Batch itself. So I think we're going to take a little while to get to know the Bad Batch and get to know Omega. But the story to the Star Wars fan, I feel, and I'm not trying to speak for Star Wars fans, but then what they're going for is we haven't really seen this time frame, this part right after the Clone Wars ends, before the Empire is really the Empire that we know. An example I give from even episode 4, when they go on to Pandora, there's this big parade. And like it's kind of weird. All the citizens out there cheering on the Galactic Empire and everything else. We have and like you see like Hunter and everybody watching it, going like they know something's wrong. So it's that feeling of dread that we have. It's almost like the Bad Batch is us. We know what's going to go down. We know this is going to go to shit. We know that the Galactic Empire is going to start dominating over everybody. And yet we had this uneasy feeling going, this just feels wrong. This feels wrong to us.
We've seen that before, though. The first ever Empire Day, we see it in Rebels, we see it in some of the books. I'm trying to remember which books we've heard about it in. But this concept of people celebrating the creation of the Empire has sort of been explored lightly elsewhere.
I felt like, I know what you mean with the Rebels of the Empire Day. I kind of felt when I watched Empire Day that there was definitely a segment of disgruntled people in there, and it seemed more like the Empire we knew seemed a little more forced. You had the segments in like Old Joe's where people were not exactly happy with the Empire and everything else.
Look at the people in Seleucami.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point too. This particular parade seemed more 100% all in, but I mean, but you're not wrong. Not necessarily wrong on that.
Interesting fact about like you talking about the beginning of the Empire and how I did love in episode 3 the new crew sort of that's brought in for Crosshair. One of the recruits talks about like the positives of the Empire, which I found like was kind of a cool, refreshing thing. Like he said, with the Empire, I get paid, I get food and a roof over my head. There's like more than the Republic has ever done for me.
Right.
I kind of really like that part of it because we've all been like programmed to hate the Empire, sort of like everything it does is evil. This was kind of, this makes sense. They're not doing just bad things. They're doing stuff for the little guy, for the average Joe.
I mean, they are bringing order to the galaxy. Okay?
Yes,
they are. In a way, they are. And I agree that it's sort of, that's the point that we're supposed to think that the Empire kind of starts out great, then goes to shit. But I'm pretty sure they're employing a lot of people.
The contractors on the Death Star. We will see.
Yeah,
that's true. Making money. They're spending money. Spending money to make money.
I mean, to be fair, all of the people that built the Death Star were genocided. But
yes,
big contract. Huge contract.
The Geonosians were.
That's true. All killed. So. That's true. There are some bad moments there. They had some mistakes. Mistakes were made,
But the contract was good while it lasted.
And it's the same thing is happening with the Kaminoans. Like you can feel the relationship slowly going bad.
Well, that is a big thing. Real quick, I want to throw this in there. We'll go into it. If you want to talk about overall arcs, there is a couple of overall arcs there, and that's one of the big ones right now is the Kaminoans, because obviously they created Omega. I always say Omega now. I almost say it more like she does with the accent. Omega.
New Zealander.
Omega. I'm Omega. Rekka. Teak. At Teak, I start thinking of the Battle for Endor creature. That's what I hear when I hear Teak. You ever watch that? You watch that on Disney Plus now. The Ewok movies are on Disney Plus, so take a shot.
Not going to happen.
I gotta tell you, they're fun. They're fun. They're silly. They're fun. But I've seen worse. You haven't lived until you've seen Wilford Brimley shooting up a band of aliens on Endor.
I don't want to jump too far ahead, but because we mentioned the Kaminoans and sort of their struggle, does anybody know sort of the economics of Kamino? Like, where are all of the other Kaminoans? If the clone program shuts down, why does that jeopardize their survival? What are they doing? I mean, the clone program is only 15 years old. What were they doing before that? Why would this be such a horrible thing for the planet? That's something I was confused about.
Well, they were cloning.
Yeah, but what were they cloning though?
That we don't know. Yeah, that was never talked about.
Kaminoans, they were making themselves.
Where is Tanwi in all of this? Well, I want to know. We haven't seen Tanwi yet. Where's Tanwi in all of this?
But I mean, we've only ever seen like 7 Kaminoans, and it's like, where's the rest of the population?
Right.
What did they do? What else is happening on this planet? We only know them for their cloning abilities, but is that the only industry on the planet? And if so,
Fishing.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like fishing would make sense.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like, I don't
They're
know
like
if
the
there are many
Gungans,
Kaminoans.
like they actually have like a huge kingdom underwater.
Perhaps.
Alan, it was Sifo-Dyas who paid for the
Sifo-Dyas.
clones.
That's right. Siphoning
Even I knew that
Sifo-Dyas siphoning off some funds from the Republic.
Oh no!
That's why the name.
No.
That's what it is.
And hold
That was
on,
bad. That was a
you
little
say
bad.
that, Zach. We were on an episode where I joked that there would be a character called Hondo Anaka in the Obi-Wan series. Just want to point that out. The PLD is giving me shit for that.
I do. I
Wait.
give shit with it.
Wait, why?
I don't know.
No, not that Hondo Naka.
Great.
No, because of the name Hondo or whatever. That's what you're saying. I was joking around with that. Oh, I want Hondo Naka in Obi-Wan. I want Hondo Anaka in everything, to be honest with you.
Me too. He's
Anytime
great. Love him.
he is the perfect Star Wars character as far as humor, as far as you can put him anywhere. He makes sense to be anywhere because of his characters. So, and the more we get from him, the better. I'm happy with
But
that.
Sung Kang playing a character called Hondo
Han.
Anaka.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Hondo. Anyway, we're getting off track.
You're doing a little Fast and the Furious cross.
I just want to know more about the Kaminoan economy.
No, I agree. I agree.
It's fascinating.
I just don't understand why they would be in jeopardy. Like their whole planet would be in jeopardy. Their survival would be in jeopardy if the clone program shut down.
It might be a case of exaggeration. Also, obviously, this is even though if they were cloners before, I don't know what they were cloning, but obviously Dexter Jettster said they were cloners. So it might be that they
Damn
had
good ones.
and damn good ones. That's right.
That's why it's just surprising to me that this is somehow like, did they scrap all their other contracts to take on the military program?
That might be what it was exactly.
In which case,
That's just one
Poor
station
business
that we've
move.
seen.
Right. Very poor business move. But that might not be. That might just be that this is their big. Maybe they weren't like very rich before. They weren't extremely successful. So this is like the big contract that kind of like now they're living high and they want to maintain their lifestyle, so to speak. Maybe that's what it is. Either way, it's obviously important to them. That's the big part, and that's why it's one of the overall arcs is what's going on there, especially in terms of Omega. Whether what's extremely special about Omega. We discussed that the first time. Is she force sensitive? Is it that she's is she a combination of everything? Can she learn? Can she be like a learning clone, so to speak, like where she's like almost like a taskmaster from see where she can see things and learn them? Because she seems to pick up things from the crew. So far, she's like little things been kind of subtle here and there, but there's been moments where she all of a sudden she shot. Never shot a blaster before. Watch like all of a sudden she shoots better than Crosshair.
And I am curious, also genuinely curious about what happens to the Kaminoans, just because I'm almost positive they are how we will eventually tie into the Mandalorian. Right.
Agreed.
So we need to know sort of what happened to them after they stopped making clones.
Right.
And
100%.
I'm assuming Omega will play some role in figuring that out.
Right.
So I am interested in that for sure.
So it's Kaminoans and it is Omega. Obviously, Omega's backstory is hidden, and obviously, as we see with episode 4 here, that they're sending bounty hunters after her. I mean, we assume it's the Kaminoans who hired Fennec Shand, but we don't know that. That's a typical red herring type plot that Dave Filoni's used before, and just in general, the storytelling plot. You say that somebody wants them, you see somebody after it, you just make the assumption in your mind when really maybe someone else is after that, after Omega as well. So we won't find that out yet. Maybe that's why they haven't said anything. Again, so there's definitely some arcs that are being laid out, just kind of slowly, and that's a Filoni trademark. I'll say that.
Yeah.
If there's any knock on Filoni, sometimes it's he's a little slow in building his arcs, and Rebels. What I always found about Rebels is the fact is that completely honestly, I love the series overall, and I watched it. Like I said, I watched it again recently. It is a case of getting to know the crew and relying on the camaraderie of the crew. Every episode, it seemed like there was big episodes. Like every 5 episodes had a big episode. Every episode had a nugget of something that was used later on. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, was it worth all this other nonsense to get to that one little nugget that we're going to use later on? I don't know. I guess that's where it comes into. You have to rely on the camaraderie of the crew to make it past that part of it. Is it good storytelling? Is it bad storytelling? Some people love it. Some people have loved Rebels more than anything. I think it's great storytelling. I do love Rebels, but I do get the argument against it, so to speak, for that reason. I feel like Bad Batch is going to be the same type of show that way. If you love the crew and want to see more of them, you're going to be more invested in what's going on.
Yeah. I would say, ironically, 4 episodes in, the storyline I'm least interested in is the one about the Bad Batch themselves. Mm-hmm. I'm interested in the Crosshair storyline. I'm interested in the conversion from the clone army to the Stormtrooper army. I'm interested in what happens to the Kaminoans. But the Bad Batch themselves, I'm like, okay, ex-Stormtrooper, ex-clone troopers on the run.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
100% with Zack.
That's a good question. Is the camaraderie of the Bad Batch enough? Is it entertaining enough at this point for you?
Well, it's like, sure. I mean, I like them well enough, but it's like I don't know. I'll be curious to see how they turn their progression as a unit into something with sort of like real stakes or some like broader implications or something, right?
I do think that it's necessary storytelling in a way, because to have them jump from where they were episode 1 to be this where they're going to be eventually, 'cause I kind of get the feeling like this is going to be like an A-team type crew where they're going to be neutral, they're going to be mercenaries that will be working for good causes, so to speak. You know what I mean? They'll do that whole thing. But in order to get there, you can't just happen overnight. So it's going to be slow storytelling, especially if you want to tell these other stories that we are more interested in. So at this point, I feel like I get where you're coming from, and I'm agreeing with you. I'm definitely far more interested in those. Those are my favorite parts of the episode, were those the ones that touched on the Kaminoans, touched on Crosshair, touched on Omega. There's stuff I'm kind of like, I laugh at Wrecker's nonsense. My wife, Kim, loves Wrecker, by the way. She loves Wrecker. And I'm okay with that, because I laugh at him too, to be honest with you. But it's going to take a while to develop that, and I'm okay with letting that happen. As long as we get something, I think we need something in the next, like, couple episodes. Maybe, like, by the end, like, a point where we see a shift and get a little more into their aspect of it. Otherwise, we're going to be left getting into the other parts completely and leaving them behind, which I don't know how well that works. But so far, I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt at this point. Still, I do love, like I said, I do love most of Filoni stuff. So I'm on board. I'm still on board so far with that aspect of it.
I got a question. What is their overall goal? What are they trying to do? Are they just on the run? It feels like they don't have a plan with, like, The Mandalorian. Sure, it had filler episodes. There was kind of like where the story went nowhere, but we knew the overall arc. Like, he was trying to get Dave back to. Like he was his mission, sort of.
Right.
But right now it's just like Omega is there, sure, but what's their goal? What are they doing? It feels like they're just fixing a small problem and moving on to the next problem.
That part of it is survival at the moment. That's why it's going to take. But that makes sense though, because of where they want to start this and where they're developing. If they want to show the Empire taking over with them as our focal point, I feel like they couldn't give them a mission right away. They have to kind of be like, it has to kind of hit them. They have to kind of, right now they're reacting to the first episode still. They're still in reactive mode. They're still getting their bearings and everything else. We're laying groundwork for Omega being an important part of it, laying groundwork for Crosshair's eventual redemption, maybe. Or I don't know if it's going to be redemption or not. That feels like that's the way it eventually will go, where there'll be some kind of moment where they go against each other and either he's redeemed or not. I'm not sure which way it's going to end up going.
He's a death trooper.
I don't know. I was going to say, after episode 3, where they turn him into full-blown Terminator, yeah, I don't think, I don't know that he's coming back, man.
No, I don't think he, I don't honestly don't think
that's my favorite part of the 2 episodes, is how
also
freaking dark Crosshair gets with just executing these prisoners and having these guys execute them.
Yeah, see,
I'm in charge because I'm willing to do what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. Boom, and everybody's like, oh, fuck.
That was
a children's show.
This is my point. This is what I want. This is what the Bad Batch sold me as. I saw the trailer. I'm like, okay, this is not this Clone Wars kiddie stuff. This is going to be dark and like more towards grown-ups. But still, there's this weird moments where just Wrecker goes like, oh, he shot me. He should have. That hurt. Ha ha. And then it's like Crosshair just executing prisoners. I'm like, there's a weird sort of disconnect. I want this darker stuff. I don't need this kiddie stuff.
You gotta understand, it's gonna always be the kiddie stuff in there at some point. You gotta have that. That's always in place in the animation.
But you don't need it, because if you think about like the OG trilogy, that is like the kids love it, the grown-ups love it, but they don't have to put in those kind of, oh yeah, that was great, oh ha ha.
No, they just gotta put in Ewoks and things like that.
Sure, but I'm fine with Ewoks.
But it's the same type of thing, though. It's still childrenish.
I love it personally.
I agree with Jarvi, though. I mean, look, if you're going to show a scene of somebody saying, I don't know where Saw is, and even if I did, I wouldn't, bam, and you just kill her instantly, and you go, I believe you. Like, that is
It's dark.
That's dark, dude. So it's like, at that point, you're basically saying this isn't a show for kids.
Exactly.
Already. So it's like, at that point, why have the kids stuff? It's
I almost feel like it's a
unnecessary at that
correction.
point.
They're trying to correct it a little bit. Like they'll show you that stuff, but because Disney has a base and Disney has a children base of Star Wars, and Star Wars is only supposed to be for 12-year-old, yada yada yada. You show that, and you almost lean the other direction to kind of make up for it.
Yeah.
In a way, we're gonna go here's the kiddie stuff for you. There's still some kiddie stuff here for you, and everything else. The parents don't like to completely flip out, even though they might a little bit. I didn't. I love my kids to watch.
It ends up feeling to me like it lacks a little bit of an identity as far as
I could see
who
that.
it's trying to appeal to.
That's definitely a valid argument. I will want to throw out there, just jumping it back a minute, we were talking about the redemption, the eventual potential redemption of Crosshair. I honestly feel my prediction of what's going to happen is there is going to be a redemptive moment, but it's going to be him sacrificing himself kind of thing. Like he'll flip it back to save his brothers somehow and die in the making. That's a very Star Warsian trope.
I like Matty's thought that he becomes a Death Trooper.
I think he is. I think he's patient. I think he's Project Zero of the Death Troopers. I think I would love if we get the Kaminoan Uprising arc where Boba Fett shows up with the 501st and just basically goes to town on all the clones. If that happens, chef's kiss. And if instead of Rex, it's Crosshair that leads it, and then Crosshair just basically just turns on all the clone troopers and then just kills everyone because he's the first Death Trooper, then hell yeah, I'm all for it.
But that could happen. And that could still happen, but he'd still get both at the end. I think at the end of the series is where
I don't think you need to redeem everybody.
he has a chance to kill the Bad Batch. And not necessarily redeem it, because he couldn't redeem everything he did. He already can't redeem him. He's already pretty much irredeemable. Although, I mean, they have the inhibitor chip angle that they could tackle and takes out the inhibitor chip, and all of a sudden he's a good guy again. And I don't want to see that happen.
Which
But I'd like
again
to
is
see
why I
him.
don't like the inhibitor chip. I mentioned that in the chat 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago. The inhibitor chip to me is the bad play. They should have been like, his inhibitor chip doesn't work, and he's like, he's just this committed to the cause.
They could still do
Yeah.
that. They could still have eventual thing where you see that it's not working and he's still a dick. You could see that happen still. But that'd be an interesting tale. But again, I just feel like it could happen because of Star Wars Redemption is a usual thing. It's a big trope in Star Wars, and people get it. You're sick of it, and if you don't want to see it, I understand that completely. But I always keep it in the back of my mind that they're going to try to do something with it. Because you're going to have some kind of emotional moment between them. It might be the emotional moment, might be the other way. Maybe you think he's going to redeem himself, and he just doesn't.
Or it
Okay,
could
they
be
have
like,
to kill him.
like in the end, Hunter has to be the one to kill him.
Right.
And you're like, wow, that's so tough for Hunter to kill his brother like that.
Right.
Because he couldn't redeem him. He couldn't bring him back.
It's a thing where it's either Crosshair or Omega kind of thing. Crosshair is about to kill Omega or something to that effect, and then Hunter has to decide: do I save Omega? Do I save Crosshair? Sorry, Crosshair, got to save the kid, kind of thing. Because the kid's is always a trope as well. They're obviously becoming a trope in Star Wars too, with Mandalorian and Dave, and now Hunter and company and Omega.
And I was going to say that about this third actually both the third and fourth episode. They feel very much like arcs directly or episodes directly out of The Mandalorian, where they're just like, all right, here we are. There's in Mandalorian, we have the spider episode where they're stuck in a little cave, and this one we have the little lizard monster thing.
Or the moon dragon.
Dragon.
Yeah. Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah. It is right. Same thing. It is
Look at
similar.
Peely, yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, I knew that one.
But no, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it is so far, and it does lead to what Jarvi was saying: a lack of identity as far as what the Bad Batch's mission is. But it's only 4 episodes in, so I feel like they will get a mission. I mean, right now, obviously, at the end of episode 4, their idea is they got to find out what's going on. It's all about protecting Omega. It's almost in a way, it might become a similar thing to The Mandalorian, where the Bad Batch becomes about protecting Omega and figuring out how they're going to get Omega away from the clutches of evil, so to speak.
Now, hear me out on this. This is just something that just popped into my head that could be a theory. Maybe there's a reason for that, and it's because the Bad Batch are they're finding their own identities in this new way of life and this new empire. Like Hunter is, he's becoming a dad figure. Wrecker is turning from this, I want to smash everything, to this lovable kind of guy. And then you have Echo, who's not even really part of the crew. He was adopted. He was, brought in just because he looks a bit like a freak.
Right.
So he's, they're kind of forging their own identities. Maybe the show is keeping it pace along with that, maybe?
Could be. It could be, and it would make sense. In the world of bingeable TV, in the way that now we're getting this weekly, it almost feels like this would be better binged in terms of that aspect of it, because you don't have to wait week to week. It's not such a slow burn. I do feel like there's an argument to be made that way. That there's shows that you can... Because I like the week-to-week things. I do like being able to draw it out. I like being able to kind of like talk about it week to week. Oh, this is what happened this week. What's going to happen next week? Instead of like getting it all done on a weekend and forgetting about it. But... when you're doing a slow burn like this, sometimes it is better because that doesn't feel as long of a slow of a burn. If like I get to see like 5 episodes in a day and 5 episodes they've come so far, it feels it's the same amount of time, but because you've gone over it a quicker amount of time, it feels quicker. It feels more make it more sense that way. So I don't know. There's an argument to be made about bingeability, but I don't know. I don't know about that entirely. But let's move on real quick. I mean, we kind of like went off base on a little bit, so. I think we're basically combining both episodes review. We're not going to go from one to the other at this point, just the way we're going, letting the show flow. But we do mention, I do want to bring it up again real quick. I do like the best moment from both episodes for me was the crosshair on Onderon wiping out Saw Gerrera's troops. I do like that Saw Gerrera did not make the appearance. It made sense that obviously he obviously lived through that, and there's a way they can kill everybody who wasn't even part of the troops. I would feel that most of his troops were probably with him. It was the bare bone squad left there protecting the women and children, and that's what gets the brunt of Crosshair's moments. I love Crosshair's voice. D. Bradley Baker making that. First of all, I'm always give credit to D. Bradley Baker
doing Crosshair as well.
Yeah,
sick.
D. Bradley Baker. He deserves so much credit because he voices every clone, and it's all. Not only does he do every clone differently, it's all based. How do you do that? I mean, you base everything on the same voice and just tweak it a little bit to make it unique, and yet he's doing this for like hundreds of characters over the course. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but how many clones they've been over the years? You know what clone is speaking when they speak, even though it's basically the same voice. That's to me, that's very impressive, and he deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, with the Crosshair scene, I was kind of like, which way is this going to go? Because we know that the inhibitor chip isn't like all the way there. Like we see when he comes into the room, he looks at the scratches in the wall. And he's like, he gets a bit like, oh, yeah, like I've got to look at that every time I come back here.
Yeah.
So I was like, is he just going to be like, yeah, you're right, whatever, let's just go? But then when he went all in and literally killed them, and like when you hear the flamethrower as well, just that, you don't see it because it's obviously off of the shot, but just like...
You see a little glow from it though.
Yeah, and like the image in your head of them burning alive, Crosshair just turning his back and walking away like he doesn't even give a shit. I was like, oh, okay, he's a bad guy. Like there's no two ways about it. He's evil.
Nice.
Yeah, like I said, they turned him into the Terminator.
Yeah.
In the episode 3, and also when he comes back and he looks at the little check marks on the wall, I wasn't sure what to think of that. I thought maybe he was looking at it like, because that was their completed missions, right? That's what he was tallying. So I didn't know if he looked at it like
one more.
Another completed mission. Exactly. Like, like it was no different than anything he'd been doing before. It's just the missions have changed a little bit now.
I read that in between. You guys both. I looked at it and it's like, almost in his head, like, well, do I notch this because it's a completed mission?
But it's a new team.
It's a new team. Yeah. So he almost like he doesn't know necessarily what to feel about it. Like I don't think he regrets anything he did, but it's kind of like just that moment of, this is kind of strange and new.
Right, and you also get that when he goes to lay down in his bunk and he's kind of looking around at the other people getting into the bunks instead of, Hunter
Wrecker,
and Tech and Wrecker getting into their bunks.
Yeah. That I want to see more of. I mean, he's definitely the most interesting of the bunch as far as the crew goes. Well, he's not really part of the crew, but you know what I mean. So, big moment in episode 4, obviously, is... Well, first of all, a little moment I want to talk about episode 4. I love the Star Wars humor sometimes, and even if it's kiddie, I still can laugh at it a little bit. The idea of Echo as a droid being sold to the guy, that amused me. I gotta admit that amused me. And even though it's stupid and silly, it almost unrealistic, but the fact he's like, I'm worth a lot more than 2,000 or whatever it was. I love little bits like that. It makes it lighthearted enough for me. That's kind of like a bargain. Yeah, got me for a bargain. He pulls the gun out of the drawer. He's like, I'll take care of this, or whatever.
Yeah, he says, what do you say? You can leave your report with me or something like that.
That's good stuff. I did like that, and I hope that continues. That's something he kind of needs it on the thing. But the main basis for episode 4, obviously, is getting Fennec Shand into the mix, and it does seem like she's going to be heavily involved more than, I mean, like we had, like, for example, episode 2, we had Cut come back, obviously. And actually, the question I have for you, Zach, since we weren't on for the first 2 episodes, that's a referential thing. But was it something that you liked or disliked?
So that one I don't mind too much, because they sort of establish him as sort of like the rogue that you can go to for help, right? The Fennec Shand thing I don't like as much. This is the type of referential thing where I'm like, okay, so the next time we see her is like 30 years from now, after all of this is done and the Empire's fallen. Is this really like who would be here right now? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And also, it doesn't feel like it's this issue that Star Wars always has, I think, which is trying to expand the universe while keeping it familiar, which sometimes you keep it too familiar and then you end up shrinking the universe. And it's like, okay, so this one character out of probably 1 billion bounty hunters over the course of this 30-year time span just happens to be involved with these 2 very critical characters in this world. And especially the fact that it happens, like I said, almost 30 years apart seems really odd to me. And unnecessary. Like, we can introduce a new bounty hunter, right? Like, there's no shortage of fun bounty hunters to be had, as we saw in Clone Wars, right? I mean,
right.
Cad Bane and a whole bunch of bounty hunters there. So I would have preferred to get a new bounty hunter here,
or perhaps one of them.
Yeah, sure, even one of them, because as far as the timeline goes, it makes more sense. Yeah,
I will say that it didn't bother me as much as it bothered you. It did initially, but then I remembered that, and it was always surprised us when we talked about this on the show previously. We were talking about Mandalorian. Like Ming-Na Wen is like 57, 58 years old, or something like that. I forget what it was. She's really like, she's a lot older than she looks.
Yeah, something like
that. Yeah, that's exactly the face that we made. We're like, she's 57. So 30 years ago, she's like 20 something. So it makes sense that she's a young bounty hunter. And then, so timeline wise, it made a lot more sense to me in terms of, like, actually bothers me less than Bo-Katan. Actually bothers me a little more, because Bo-Katan still looks the same age in Mandalorian that she did.
Did it just
like the character, and I like the.
Okay. He's back.
Oh, did I freeze? I'm good. Okay.
Yeah, you're good now.
I let it go because I love the character, so I let it go. That Bo-Katan is the Mandalorian, and it made it was a fun angle to go with. I understand what people had against it, though, but it did bother me in the back of my head. Like, she looks exactly the same she did. But the fact that Ming-Na Wen is 57 years old, because that character could be 57 years old, getting her back, at least that makes sense age-wise. So it fits me a little bit that a young Fennec Shand would be around there. I do like getting the fact that we get backgrounds for some of these characters. Like, she is a like you said, you could have another bounty hunter. Absolutely true. But we do have a bounty hunter we get to learn more about, which makes potential future episodes with Fennec Shand and Mandalorian or Boba Fett potentially mean more as well. So I'm kind of like on the fence about it with this one. There's some referential things I hate. I always bring this up, and I bring this up every time we talk about referential things in Star Wars. I hated Ponda Baba and Dr. Evazan in Rogue One.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, stuff like that. Things like the Kowakian monkey lizard in the first episode of The Mandalorian, like things like that. I'm like, come on, we get it. We've all seen Star Wars. We know these are Star Wars things. So
Jarvi loved the monkey lizard.
I love the monkey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I chuckled at it. It was inconsequential enough. But
the stuff where it's just like, look, it's Star Wars.
These guys,
like,
these guys. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Whereas Fennec Shand doesn't do that for me. It didn't seem like that was oh, hey, look, it's Fennec Shand. It was kind of like, oh, that's cool. So getting more background of that character. So I'm in between. So I guess it depends on how it goes and how they develop her. But right now, it seems like they're going to develop her quite a bit more. She's going to be the one chasing them down. Although I do kind of hope we get more bounty hunters involved. I would love to see her teaming up with somebody from the Clone Wars, like Embo or somebody like that. Or see... Perhaps this is where we get Boba Fett, a young Boba Fett, continued his story. I feel like Dave Filoni loves continuing Boba Fett's story from Clone Wars, and if they can get him a little older Boba Fett, seeing the young aspect of him, maybe tie that in. Because especially considering if you're going to have Fennec Shand. Although, wait, I'm just thinking about Mandalorian. Do we know if Fennec Shand and Boba Fett knew each other before that moment? Do we know or do we not know?
They probably crossed paths at some point.
I know Boba Fett saves her, obviously, and that's where she comes back and they're traveling together. But it never made sense, never made it clear to me, unless I'm forgetting a line or something, where they were actually together or they had known each other before that.
I don't think there is anything that establishes that. But I will say, you bring up the point about her being 57 in The Mandalorian. It does make me feel a little bit better about her appearance here, just because they're not shrinking the universe in spite of the logic. They're shrinking the universe still, but at least it is logically coherent still. So it's like, whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm glad I could do that for you, because actually, I did the same exact thing when I first was like, oh, it's a little, but that does make sense to me. So that's a good thing. So at the end of it, we had the great action scenes. Obviously, a lot of the action sequences reminded me of Attack of the Clones. About the
yeah, very much so. There was the speeder chase.
The speeder chase through Coruscant instead of over Pantora. But that was kind of fun.
First of all, can we talk about Pantora? Like,
yes.
What? You had to like rip off James Cameron and say you can't say Pandora, you will say Pantora.
I thought it was Pantera.
Well, Pantora actually was established a long time ago. It was in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, but still.
Before Avatar, I believe, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, I think
Avatar's
so.
what, 2007?
Until 2009.
2009.
The Clone Wars was 2008, so Pantora was actually created.
96%
Dude,
accuracy.
the Avatar.
Because George Lucas's
script
character from Revenge of the Sith is a Pantoran.
Which one?
Papa Noida, the guy who's on it. George Lucas made that little cameo at the Opera House.
Which one was?
He was actually showing you
one of the guys that was sitting there, because I remember the blue.
No, he was on the stairway.
Oh wow! Okay, that feels like you're reaching now, but that's fine.
No, but I'm saying that character is a Pantoran. That's who that character is. So who knows? I guess you can't really say. Maybe James Cameron's taking stuff from Star Wars for his shindig.
Yeah, it just felt kind of derogatory to sort of like, yeah, that's the wrong word. What's the word?
I thought it was interesting that it was such like a urban area.
Yeah.
We don't see a whole lot of urban areas in Star Wars other than Coruscant.
Yeah, like Coruscant, everything else seems to be 10 more villages and stuff like that, or towns and that. This was definitely a stronger thing, which I'm glad to see, because in a galaxy that has like space travel and all this stuff, you'd think it'd be more developed and urban at that point, right? But I don't know. I'm happy to see Pantora. But I'm happy to see Pantora. I can see more of it. I hope we do get some more. Like, it seems like a lot of people against the referential thing, but I like Star Wars has so many planets that's established at this point. Like, every time they show us a new planet, I feel like yes, it's bigger, it's better to a degree, but at the same time, like there's already so many. You should probably how many planets are we gonna have in the Star Wars universe?
Yeah, I think when it comes to like planets and species and things like that, I'm okay with reusing stuff to add some familiarity to it and make the world feel sort of unified in that way.
Yes.
But for me, it's like characters where I'm like,
Makes
I don't
sense.
have to see the same character in every series.
That makes sense.
Like this is a big galaxy. There's probably a trillion plus, probably more than that people here. Like, why am I seeing the same person over and over again?
Right. And there is times where a planet can be overused. I mean, how many times are you going to go to Tatooine? How many times are you going to go to those kind of places in a way?
Every time.
But in a way, like getting Pantora is a place we have seen once. That's the kind of thing I'd like to develop. Although we've seen this once or twice, we can get a little bit more into that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so I do like that aspect. So, so we have the thing with Fennec Shand at the end. Obviously, the clone troopers realize that Fennec Shand is after Omega, and what are we going to do? So I guess that's
she
the last
wrecks
one.
them.
Yes.
She defeats everyone she goes up against.
Hunter just barely gets out.
To be fair, that lizard wrecked Hunter in the previous episode also. So
that's true.
Also, we didn't get to talk about the lizard moment. The dragon moment was very. That reminded me a lot of Rey in the caves in The Rise of Skywalker.
I actually didn't think about that.
That's a good point. There was like a connect. She didn't attack the dragon. She didn't in the cave as well, so they're kind of like a throwback thing right there.
That is the second time that kind of tease like Ezra's ability. Ezra always had that ability in Rebels, connecting with animals, and I always felt like they were doing that. They're going to go that way. They didn't go that way with the episode with Cut. and the Reek. I think it was the Reek that they had in episode 2. I thought they were going to do it again with the Moon Dragon, but they didn't. Again, they kind of just. But it was actually, I mean, it almost like they almost did though, because the dragon didn't attack her, but it wasn't like something. I don't know. Is her force ability slowly growing? Is that potentially part of what's going on?
I thought she was going to use it in episode 4 when she was hanging. I grabbed my buddy that I was watching with. I was like, dude, she's going to use the force. She's going to fall. Hunter's going to come by on the speed, and she's going to do the Anakin thing of like falling and then like grabbing hold of it as it comes past. I was like, she's going to use the force right now. She didn't.
Yeah, but I do think there's like a little bit of a theme where it's like when you see these animals with aggression, there's normally like a reason. They're being protective of something, or they're in pain, and these force sensitive people. And again, I don't think we know that Omega is force sensitive. I think we can assume she is potentially, but where they have this sort of intrinsic sense of the beings around them in a way that they can sort of empathize with them and sort of figure out why they're being aggressive and remedy that instead of just return the aggression.
Agreed. It does seem like they're going to be teasing this for her for a bit. I feel like Dave Filoni knows what he's doing in terms of everybody's kind of assuming she's force sensitive to a degree, or something to that fact. They don't want to like commit to it because they kind of like it's almost like the relationship thing in the sitcom. The will they won't they get together. Once they get together, it usually jumps the sharks. They kind of like the idea of getting us to come back. Go, well, is this the week we're going to find out they're force sensitive? Like Matty said, this is it. This is going to be the moment. No, it's not. But they don't
in The Mandalorian, they drop it on you pretty damn quick. It's
that's true.
2 where...
That's true.
Where Dave...
Good old Dave. That's true. Although I feel like with Dave, it was almost more so than Omega. Like, it was like this shock if it wasn't. Like, at this point, it had to be.
You look like Yoda and you can't use the Force? Like,
what's wrong with you, little bitch?
Damn it, Dave.
At least there's no Liam.
Fucking Liam.
Fuck
Liam.
I will say my favorite moment of episode 4, and it's probably one that you guys completely aren't expecting, because you're probably going to think, oh, it's Matt, he's going to think of something action. It was actually a Wrecker moment when when Echo's starting to put the ship back together, and Wrecker just goes, just tell me what you want me to rip out. I thought that was so good. I love
Wrecker. I love Wrecker in general. I think I love the fact that they're giving him a heart. I love that he had the stuffed animal or whatever, the first one, and that he takes the moment he builds the bedroom for Omega. It's necessary to make him a complete character. Otherwise, he's just a mindless Hulk kind of character, and that's funny. It leads to some great moments. You kind of can laugh along with it, but giving him the extra added touch of humanity to a degree makes for a better character. Makes you want to root for him even more. So I'm good.
His chip goes off.
Yeah, he's kind of been the most nurturing of Omega, because even like when the ship is going down in episode 3, he's like, we're gonna die, and he looks over and sees her and he goes, we're gonna just be fine. We're gonna be fine. And then he makes the little bunk for her personalized bunk.
It's like he's like they're playing against his type, which makes it even better. Like, he's the one you would expect to be the least nurturing or whatever, but he's the most. So I kind of like that turnabout in a way. It makes it much more interesting in a way. So
I'm sort of hot and cold on him. So exactly for the reasons that at times he has these lines that are like really one note kid like, and then he has like these awesome badass moments. I feel like they should toe the line of more like handle him more like they did Drax the Destroyer, like in the Marvel movies, because he had a tragic backstory, but still he had like sort of love for the team and connected with Mantis. So there is a way to make the character appeal to kids without making him feel too sort of, I don't know,
childish,
for lack of a better word. Yeah, childish, exactly.
That's a good call. Kim will kill you if she ever hears you talking down about Wrecker, just so you know.
I love Wrecker. That's what I said. There's like a love-hate thing there.
I was just that moment for me was hilarious, because the amount of times like I've like tried putting something together and I've been like, fuck it, I don't care, I'm just gonna rip it out. I don't care. Like that spoke to me personally. I was like, other than Crosshair, like Crosshair's my favorite character so far, like out of everyone, because Darkseid, bad guy. Obviously, I'm gonna root for him. But
I will say I want to like Hunter more than I do. so far. Like, I think Hunter is
Rambo.
set up cool. He's basically Rambo in the
Rambo.
universe, but he's smart Rambo, whatever. But it seems like he, as the leading character, he has to be this more. I don't know what the word is. Like, he's not.
I mean, his like specialized trait is like kind of lame.
Yeah.
Is this just like a tracker or a hunter?
Yeah, the tracker
Okay,
hunter.
he's a specialized tracker. That's cool, I guess.
Yeah, but he's like the
he
leader.
found a doll on the ground and he kept following the trail.
Yeah. Exactly. And because of his thing, he has to have this almost like blank personality to a degree. He doesn't have the specific. Like, I mean, Tech has the obviously very intellectual, very in depth with computers and things like that. He's the one that's like almost emotionless in a way. He doesn't care about what's going on. He has his task and he's going to do it. Echo has enough of backstory you already know. Wrecker has his moments already. So it kind of feels like Hunter just is that plain Jane blank slate kind of I'm the leader, and so
Yeah, right.
So I feel like he needs to be developed a little bit more, and I think you'll see him being developed as... I kind of feel like Omega, even though Wrecker is doing the most nurturing, I think Omega is going to be the one that connects with him the most. She's going to be... So that's where we, if we have that redemptive... Or not redemptive, if you have that angle at the end where Hunter has to be the one to kill Crosshair, it's going to pay off because of Hunter and Omega's relationship.
Yeah, and it does seem like Omega is using Hunter as her biggest role model.
Right.
You know, she follows him or goes with him to track the was it Moon Dragon?
The Ordo Moon Dragon.
The Ordo Moon Dragon.
Ordo
And
Moon
you know, when he wakes up, he's like, "Wait, how'd you do this?" She's like, "I tracked him." You know.
Right. And that's what I keep saying. And the last thing I'll say before we go into our predictions and stuff, and that's what I was trying to say before, is that she definitely seems like she's developing these skills. She developed the tracking after like 2 seconds. I feel like, are we going to get a turn where she's not force sensitive and her special like clone ability is the Taskmaster thing, where she just is can easily learn whatever's imprinted on her? Like she watches him track, she can track. She watches Crosshair shoot, she can shoot. It seems like
she learned super strength from
maybe.
Does that be funny?
Hopefully
That would
not
be
his
pretty
lines
funny.
though. Oh, that good. Oh, that good. Okay, sorry. I feel like I'm so negative. I'm actually not.
Nah, dude, I love it, dude. I love it.
I actually feel like the funny thing is, like, she got the aggression from Wrecker. That's what the cafeteria scene in the first one. She got the aggressive nature of Wrecker in a way, which is kind of a weird thing to get, but I don't know, kind of understand.
My special skill is I'm ultra aggressive.
I mean, that's
all
my
going
special
down! Food
That's my
fight!
special skill.
That's true, Matty. All right, let's wrap this up before you and going. What's your guys' predictions about next week, where we're going maybe even further on down the line? What do you want to see? What do you think's going to happen? Jarvi, let's start with you.
I need one of those big episodes now. This is the time, because I feel like I'm starting to vape from the excitement. But what Zach said turned me around a little bit on regards to the storyline. Now, I'm more interested in the Empire side, like Rampart, Tarkin, and the Kaminoans. So this is what I want more of. We're probably getting it because they're like phasing out the clones as we go. So if they give us more on that part, I'm gonna be excited. But I'm gonna be needing one of those big episodes where there's a clear goal for them, because if it's another crash or another part to switch out, I'm gonna get frustrated.
Well, you got a long way to go, buddy. Another 15 up for 12. I don't know, 16 episodes total. So
12.
How many
Well,
is it altogether? Yeah.
I think 16 the first season. I want to say. 16,
Oh, wow,
so we got
okay.
12 more left. I mean, 12 more weeks you're on the show, and you're going to be going less and less. So, Matty, how about you?
I think it is time for a big story episode. Part of me wants to see Rex. Like, I just have this inkling that Rex is going to be the one to be like, okay, this is what you need to do. This is where you need to go. If you want to save Crosshair, this is how you do it, because he knows about the inhibitor chip. So he's obviously going to be the one to point them in the direction that they need to go. Does that happen next week? Probably not, but that's what I want to happen.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Zach, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I have any great predictions, but I think what I'd like to see is kind of the same things that Jarvi said, seeing the I want to see more of the clone troopers being phased out. I want to see these new loyalists coming in and how that affects, you know, the camaraderie, you know, how they want to train them, how they instill the loyalty. Those things are that I'm I'm interested in.
Can I ask another thing that I wanted to touch upon? And is Rampart a pre-existing character, or is he a new one?
He's new. As far
He's
as
a new guy,
as far as
okay.
I know.
Okay.
Unless he was in a
So
book that I
there's-
missed somewhere. As far as I know, he's new.
Okay, so their plan is to phase out the clones because like regular people kind of do the job in a better way.
Cheaper.
I
Is
was
it all
gonna
about
say,
the money?
It's almost all about
it feels
the money.
like the clones, like they send the new troopers with Crosshair to complete the mission that the Clone Force 99 failed at. But the only reason why they succeed is because of Crosshair's programming. So
Yeah.
so it's like they're no way better because they wouldn't have completed the mission. And Crosshair was like programmed correctly, like the other clones were supposed to, and that is the reason why they kind of so.
I agree. That actually makes a lot of sense. I think the idea is it's all about the money, thinking about the program, and right now they're going to go with the idea of having a clone be in charge of the elite forces in a way, like a clone would be in charge, but so they can get the benefit of the clones while still saving the money of the actual grunt troops.
I do want to make a quick comment about that, because at one point, one of the trooper that ends up getting killed says, like, why are you in charge? You know, if you clones are so great, then why are they bringing us in? Sounds like they're looking for a change. And it seems like the obvious answer that he can just give to them is your cheap labor is why we're doing it. Okay. But they don't. They just kind of sit there and he's like, we'll find out what happens or whatever. I don't remember what he says, but I was like, I don't know. I feel like you should have just been straight with him.
Yeah.
Instead, they play it off like there's
Maybe he
something
doesn't
else
know.
going on, because we know as viewers, we get the foresight of seeing that the clone troopers are much superior to the stormtroopers. But I don't know, just something I thought.
Actually makes sense. I get that. Real quick, I'll say my little predictions there. I actually agree with Matty in a way. I think we definitely need Rex at some point. It makes sense to see him at some point. I think it might end up being a season finale kind of thing. I feel you save Rex for that because Rex is so beloved. But exactly, it does make sense. He does deal with inhibitor chips. He's known to echo. I think that it could be very cool to see where they go with him. Of course, as I said earlier, I want to see Hondo and Naka at some point here because he absolutely makes sense while they're on the run to get involved at this point. So any more Hondo and Naka is better for me. And I do think I would like a big moment sometime soon, where that big moment involves confirming what Omega is, or at least getting a little deeper into what Omega is. And again, what the Kaminoan's goals are. There's definitely some referential moments that I do like to see. I want to catch up on a couple different things, but I don't want it to become a referential, slammery either. But it would be cool to touch base on a couple of different things where we are. Rex being the key one at this point, and then Hondo being the other one at this point. But I would like to touch base on some more bounty hunters too. I think that would make sense at this point, because obviously if Fennec Shan is being hired, obviously there's bounty hunters that are probably going to be hired, including a Boba Fett, including an Embo, including maybe a Cad Bane. I mean, I know Cad Bane is well loved in the animated verse. It would make sense that Cad Bane is here. There is that unshown or unfinished Clone Wars arc where Boba and Cad Bane had their little throwdown, and it looked like Boba Fett killed Cad Bane, but it was never quite made quite clear. It was kind of like he shot him, and it was like so. But it's not technically canon at this point because it was never shown. When shown at Celebration, so they could bring that storyline in there, and that would make sense in this arc, in this overall slice of the universe, as it would. The last thing I do want to say, and I'd have to do it carefully. Because of the arc they're setting up, I would like to see Coruscant right now a little bit, just to see what's going on. I mean, maybe they have to have some kind of mission where the Bad Batch has to sneak into Coruscant for some reason. I don't know what it would be. I don't know how you make it work. But seeing Coruscant at this point and what's going on there would be kind of cool, I think.
Okay, one last thing. I want to see some of the Separatist planets. I want to see what's going on with them, right? They lost the war.
Yes.
You see this planet celebrating because they were on the Republic side. They won the war. But what's going on with the Separatists? What are they feeling right now?
Yeah, they have no leadership right now. That's the thing. That's the other part we have to talk about too. All the organizations, like the Bank Union, the Trade Federation. Those what's going on with them with everything else that's gone down? Are they completely shit now? Who knows? But it's everything, and they could definitely, because if you're going to be on the run from the Empire, where are you going to go? You're going to go to a planet that's not exactly rooting for the Empire. So it makes sense as well at that point. So
I love what Movie Kenobi says. Like they probably will get hired to do a job, something,
Yeah.
It feels like sort of the Mandalorian way, but still.
Makes absolute sense. Absolutely. I mean, I could definitely see that go on. Maybe they need something in order to trade. It might be a trade thing. Either it's for supplies like they need, because obviously they made that point that they need to get supplies and everything because they're not being fed by the Republic anymore. So maybe it's in trade for that, or maybe it's in trade for getting Omegas to safety. Like they need to do something to save Omegas, so they need to go on a run for somebody, whoever it is. The good thing is they're morally gray enough that you could see them work for either side. Good guys, you could see them working for the Hutts or working for a criminal organization just to get things by. It's a good way. That's the one thing about Bad Batch that really is cool. Much like Mandalorian in a way, you could see them fit into almost any. Nothing seems out of place as far as them working with somebody. You see them working with like a Rex and Ahsoka, even if Rex and Ahsoka together at some point or something.
Crimson
or
Dawn. Come on,
Crimson Dawn or the Pikes or something like that. Yeah, a lot of different things you touch base on. Crimson Dawn would be the one.
Don't. Just
Don't get excited.
my hopes up.
Don't get excited.
Don't. Because now that thought's in my head, I'll be like, shit. What if Maul shows up in this too? And if he doesn't, I'm gonna blame you.
Maul could absolutely do something. That absolutely could be something.
La 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 la.
But either way, I want to say hi, John. Thanks for showing up. And yes, Zach is our big draw because he's our big guest, a big special guest. So thank you, Steve. Much appreciated, as always. And do you think they will get worked into live action? The Bad Batch worked into live action.
It'd
be tough to do a clone as like an altered clone. I feel like.
Yeah.
Hear me out. What if they see how the first season goes, how many viewers it gets, and then they switch to live action? Like we've never seen that before, but it's kind of cool to see.
It'd be interesting.
I know that's never gonna happen, but it's. I mean,
if they were going to do that, what would probably more likely happen than switch into a live action series? They would do like a cartoon season, and they culminate it with a live action movie, something to that effect. I can see that being more likely.
Paid if they do that.
T. Bradley Baker would have a. Be a little upset about that, though. I think it'd be Tamira Morrison. It'd have to be right at that point, right?
Just dubbing everyone.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You got to get like people that look like Tamira Morrison, but not exactly because they're like a little bit different. That seems tricky.
Yeah, I feel like they try to CGI it; it would come off messy. I feel like that's what they would
ruin this for me.
That's what I live for, Jarvis. To ruin everything for you.
I mentioned on another episode, I would love to see like. After the Bad Batch, I'd love to see like they go into a bar and like Wrecker's working behind a bar.
That'd be cool. I would like to see. That is one of the kind of cool things is to get to see potentially more clones that have left. Because I feel like more of the clones are going to leave now. Now that everything's going on, obviously they're being replaced. So I don't think they all die unless they're going to have like a genocidal thing where the Tarkin decides that they're going to just eliminate them all in one fell swoop. I mean, that could happen.
It did happen. Legends.
In Legends, it did, correct. But at this point, everything's a lot different in canon now than it was in Legends. Although they do cherry pick some things, but either they all leave or they all have to leave the normal, the not death way. Like cut, and maybe they leave and they become normal life. You start seeing clones more in normal or at least different ways outside the army. You see them as mercenaries. You see them working regular old jobs at spaceports and stuff. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see clones just pop up out of nowhere. I mean, maybe some of the clones we even know. I mean, you never know. We have no idea what happened to Cody, really. No idea what happened to some of the ones that are in the Clone Wars. I'd love to catch up with them. I mean, I always thought it'd be kind of cool to see a Rex and Cody meeting after the fact. Like, maybe I don't know how that would go down necessarily. I mean, Rex is still on the run. Cody still got the chip, and he's still upset. He tried to kill Obi-Wan. I mean, so it'll be an interesting, definitely emotional reunion. I don't know if Bad Batch is the place to have that, but there it is. Order 67. Let's terminate the clones. That's what we're waiting for the next order now. That's what it is. I wonder what Order 69 is. I digress. Let's leave it there. Hey-o! Let's leave it there. Richard, Eric, Jarvi, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Richard Eric with a K Jarvi. And as always, on PLD Projects here, talking Star Wars. And you can find some older episodes of Class Action on the Action Industries YouTube page. So blow these episodes up. Let's bring it back.
Matty, where can the folks find you?
You guys can find me here every week on Scoundrels of the Force. You can find me on Twitter at Matty Gunner, Instagram Matty_Gunner, and you can find me in about 10 minutes time over on twitch.tv/Matty Gunner TV, and also the Wild Jones podcast YouTube channel, where I'm going to be yelling at some motherfuckers because some shit went down last night in the UFC that I wasn't happy about, and yeah, I got things to say.
You don't want Matty mad at you, I'll tell you that much. You don't want Matty mad at you. So. And Zach, how about you?
You can't find me most places because I'm not on Twitter or Instagram, but I am a regular on the family show on the Schmo Me the Money channel. So check that
Best
series
show
out.
on that channel, by the way.
Thank you. Yes, we did a retrospective of the Fast and the Furious franchise, and I believe we're going to be starting up a retrospective on the Step Up franchise soon.
Really? I did not do that. Oh, interesting. Gonna like branch out a little bit. I like that. You can find me at Paul_Denuzio on Twitter. You can find me every week on PLD Projects and this lovely show, Scoundrels of the Force. I have so many things. I got my fingers in every sorts of pie, as Brad Gilmore likes to say, fingers in all sorts of different pies. So I'd like to develop more on this channel. I know it's a weird saying. He said it once, and I kind of like laughed at it. I started to say it ever since. I don't know why. But I do want to develop this channel a little more. I do have some ideas. Obviously, I've been talking about the Harrisons forever. That took a backseat a little bit. I think the next show that I will do, I do want to do Mike's show on Queen. I'm going to be doing going deep dive into their catalog and their discography, maybe song by song, hopefully short little pre-taped episodes, like maybe 10-15 minutes on each song in their catalog. Hopefully, I have a lot of information on it. I love them for as long as I have. I've read up so many different things. I have some fun anecdotes, some technical know-how, and I don't know, it should be interesting. That's something I definitely want to do more of soon. Tonight, action on this channel itself, the Action Army is taking over again after the Action Guys. We're going to be doing a Pixar tier list on this channel with some of the Action Army generals. I know Nikki said she wants to be on. Party was in the chat earlier. He said he wants to be on. I'm not sure who else is going to be on. But I did do a Pixar watch through at the behest of the Action Army generals, and so we're going to do some tier rankings on that.
You can bring me on if you want me to throw a wrench in some things.
Hey, I'm all happy. If you want to come on, you and I would be the different people, because I think there's you down here, there's me who did the watch through and appreciate it, and then there's these guys up here that all worship Pixar. So it could be a little interesting. You should definitely have a little arguments, a little yelling back and forth. That could be a lot of fun. But yes, of course, obviously on Action Industries, I can find me on a lot of their stuff as well with Ben and Drew. Thank you, and the FCL. On every Tuesday, I head write the questions and produce for the FCL. We have great matches this week. We do have Andrew Furtado returning from suspension to face John the Collector Knight. And also we have Robert Montano from Late to the Party facing off against Robert Adams from the Cinefanatics. That should be a fun contest there. I think that should do it. I probably have more I could talk about, but...
John Knight also appeared on a few episodes of The Family Show.
He did as well. He's a good guy. He's a good dude. He has a lot of stuff to talk about.
Very cool.
So that's it. Every time now, stay tuned. Next week we'll be back, same time, same place. I definitely have to have Zach back on it. I think we had a good discussion. It's a good having.
The Last Jedi, we got to have Zach back.
Last Jedi for Zach? Yeah. Absolutely. When we get there, we have gone through a lot of the movies. We obviously paused due to the Bad Batch, and Jarvi is waiting patiently or impatiently to get back to the movie discussion because he loves those as well. But we'll get there eventually. And so, yeah, next week, same time, same channel. We'll talk about episode 5, and then we will go from there. But otherwise, may the Force be with you. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out, staying in the chat, and giving us your love. We will see you. Get my screen up here. We will see you next week. Bye now.